Now, one of the other movies we want to highlight coming up at the Sedona Film Festival is by Ben Fama Jr. It's called Reasons to Believe. Ben, that title says a lot. Tell us why you chose that title.
Well, it was an exploration of belief, the psychology and the science of why we believe. And when you're trying to challenge why people believe in the things they do, I'm actually trying to showcase the reasons why we believe.
And this is regarding faith and religion, correct?
It is, but it also regards just belief systems. I mean, it challenges why people don't believe in vaccinations, like you were just talking to the pediatrician, you know, in the age of alternative facts and fake news and just people believing things, we're challenging that. A lot of things, actually.
And the subtitle of your movie is Sometimes the Truth is Unbelievable. Explain.
So just like it says there, sometimes when you're trying to present facts to people, sometimes when you're trying to challenge people with the truth, sometimes they don't accept it. Sometimes it's actually hard to believe the truth, and it makes us a little bit uncomfortable. So I thought that would be a perfect title to really just describe being able to present the truth, present the facts, and people rejecting those facts and not being able to accept them. So.
Do you think the certitude has something to do with the fact that people don't want to hear something contrary to their own beliefs?
Yes, in fact, that's a big part of the premise of the film is that once you already built an idea about what you believe about reality, whatever it is, whether it's aliens, UFOs, political ideology, you tend to stick with that belief system and you tend to reject other things, facts that don't coincide with it. You actually have a part of your brain that makes it very uncomfortable. So when you hear those facts, your brain has a cognitive dissonance that says, I don't want to hear that. I'm not ready to hear that. So
now, during your the research for your film, you and your wife interviewed a lot of noted religion skeptics and atheists. What did you discover by talking to them?
Well, the good thing is, like, I have Michael Shermer, who's a well-known author, Skeptic Magazine, The Moral Arc, and Peter Boghossian, who's a philosopher. And what I really learned was just really about why it is not only do we believe, but how do we understand how we come to our beliefs? How do we understand the world around us? How do we understand reality? Because we've been asking these questions for thousands of years. If we really think about it, we used to believe that the world was flat. We used to believe that if we burned witches at the stake and burned people for gods or rain dances, that the rains would come. So it's really about questioning what we know about reality and understanding that reality, and so we can move forward and progress in what we know about our knowledge. So
we have a film clip ready from Reasons to Believe. It's directed and produced by Ben Fama Jr. It's part of the Sedona Film Festival. Let's take a look at Reasons to Believe.
And I really start with just the neuroscience of belief. It's just connecting the dots, finding patterns in nature, and building percepts into concepts. And so this sort of convergence of lots of neural inputs generates what we call beliefs.
When I think about the word belief, to me, it just means something that I hold to be true. Some that can be based in evidence, some that are not necessarily based in scientific evidence. So for me, a belief is just something that you think is true.
It's a setting in between the input and the output that makes you who you are. Those beliefs that you have set in that middle, that's what makes you behave differently on the output side than, say, your best friend.
Communities of people hold certain beliefs. And when everybody you know holds a certain belief, when your friends hold a certain belief, it's much more difficult to let that belief go.
Even though this is such a threatening and negative belief, people would still prefer to believe, you know, in a world that has this negative or scary explanatory structure than one that is completely unpredictable.
That is Reasons to Believe, which is part of the Sedona International Film Festival, a film made by Ben Fama Jr. Ben, during your research, did you find that there was a big disconnect in terms of beliefs for religion and faith between educated people and those with perhaps a more modest education?
You know, it's kind of funny because I used to think if you were more educated, more likely you didn't have beliefs, and there's some correlation with that. But you'll be surprised, and one of the things we talk about in the film is how extremely smart people have beliefs. In fact, it's actually harder to convince people who are very educated to think those actual beliefs. So education does play a small part in it, but it doesn't determine it. There's a lot of smart people who believe a lot of different things.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Do you believe science and religion are compatible?
Me personally, I don't think so. And I only say that because I think science is a process. It's how you come to understand something. I think religion is more of a claim to reality and saying what it is. And I think science is the process of how do we understand the world that we live in, and how do we determine and how do we get past our cognitive biases and our false ways of thinking, because we can be easily be fooled. So it kind of keeps us in check. So I think there's a difference between the two.
Did your research show any big gap in ethics and morality between the believers and non-believers?
I didn't go into it too much about it. I know Michael Shermer, who's in the film, has a book called The Moral Arc, so I recommend people to read that. I briefly went into it, but briefly, there's a lot of research that goes to show that just because you're religious doesn't mean you're any more moral, and I think it's an important question. How do we understand objective morality, and then how do we understand morality in doing that? But I didn't go into it too much, but I did challenge the morality of how your beliefs, because you could just believe something, but how do those beliefs create harm in society too?
And Reasons to Believe is showing when and where?
So it'll be at the Sedona International Film Festival, one of the best festivals out there. I'm not just saying that because I live in Sedona. I love these guys. It's on February 21st at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Mary D. Fisher Theater, February 21st. And then the second one is February 24th at 12:20 p.m. at Harkins Theater.
That is Ben Fama Jr. The movie is Reasons to Believe. I'll be back in just a moment with a note about who's coming up tomorrow on Sandy and Friends, and make sure you watch Me TV when you can. That's coming up next on Sandy and Friends on AZTV.